Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to hashtag Pro Wrestling Q&A by me, Nebocsid, with special guest, Mr. Shoko. So I would like to thank all of you for submitting questions. And by all of you, I mean more than one person. So, I'm going to start with the question I got on Facebook from one of my friends, Chris, in Disco Nation. I will vote for Mask or Mr. Socko, LOL. My question is, what was it like for Matt Ecstatic to hug us after his win over Mr. Beefy Goodness? Honestly, I was a little disappointed because I thought that Mr. Beefy Goodness's shtick is hilarious. And even though Beefy Goodness was a heel, I just found it so funny that I wanted Beefy Goodness to win just out of how he was being. It's like, why are you taking pictures? You're supposed to be here for the wrestling. If I have pictures, I'll post it. I'll add it like either up here or over here, and that way you can see what it was like. I'm telling you, that guy was hilarious, and that's basically what was going through my head. Like, I wanted Beefy Goodness to win. Beefy Goodness. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And the next one, I'm going to have to go to YouTube for it, from Dinosaur Demon. How would you recommend someone get back into pro wrestling? I think the last time I watched it, Macho Man was still active and alive. Well, that's actually a good question, because I've been watching for so long that it would be hard for me to really empathize with someone who hasn't watched in so many years. My inclination would be to just take a look at your options. Like, there's WWE as the main company. There's also TNA, which is their biggest rival, I guess you could say. There's also Ring of Honor. And I'm sure that wherever you are, there are local promotions, so you can go there and check out what's going on there. The prices are actually usually pretty reasonable, like the $10 to $20 range for seats for the local promotions. They might have a former WWE or TNA star on there at some point, so yeah, let's see. If you're like me, I'm something of a DVD guy, so I would suggest maybe looking up certain DVDs like New Stars, the Stars of the Millennium, which covers a lot of the more recent wrestling stars like Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy, etc., etc. Maybe the History of the World Heavyweight Championship. That way you're getting an idea as to who's going on now, especially like if you're watching, say, the last little bit of the History of the World Heavyweight Championship. So yeah, basically find out about the guys that are performing, and then maybe if you like any of them, then obviously it'll be worth checking out. But if you can't get behind a superstar, then I guess I can only say just watch a Raw or SmackDown here or there and see if you like what you see. So there you go. And I'm sure we're going to see some of my DVDs later on, because I have screened some of the questions. So, now to Twitter. At Nebocsid. Oh yeah, he asked me, so... Anyways, this comes from at Discolius. If you could book any wrestlers, past or present, in their prime, how would you book WrestleMania? So yeah, this was a question that I screened. And I actually had to sit down and think about this one. So, I actually booked a WrestleMania. So, matches that I would want to see if I had, like, every pro wrestler at my fingertips to book. I would start off with a no disqualification match for the tag titles. The Acolyte Protection Agency against the Legion of Doom. Because these guys are just... it would be an all-out brawl, you know, like you would have a lot of chairs and all that shit. And you can tell it would be a real... This match would have the potential to be an all-out brawl. This would be a potentially violent match that I think would be just... For the pure brawler out there, would be a great match. The next one would be a fantasy match. The Big Show, Paul White, against Andre the Giant. Basically, if you remember the 80s and the 70s, and you would remember Andre the Giant, and nowadays, the Big Show. So they're like two really big guys, like well over at least 7 feet tall, and they're built, you know, they're thick guys. So that would be like a fantasy match to have. Let's see. Next I would have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat against Kurt Angle. I think that would be a technical masterpiece. Anyone who remembers Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat from WrestleMania 3 would be able to tell you how great of a match that is. And I think this one could compete with that match, potentially. Next up, I would have a hardcore match between Mankind and CM Punk. Now, the promos going into this match would be phenomenal. Because, as anyone who remembers wrestling from, like, say, 10 or 15 years ago would remember how great of a promo man Mick Foley is. And anyone who's watched the past, like, 2 or 3 years would remember CM Punk's pipe bomb. So the promos alone would make this one phenomenal. I'm sorry if the mask is muffling me, and I'm kind of feeling like it is, so let's see. Yeah, I think the promos would be top-notch, and they have very contrasting styles, and that's and I think that match would be one of the best matches on the card. And let's see, up next I would have Sting versus The Undertaker. Career versus streak. So, I think that match pretty much explains itself for anyone who remembers wrestling from 10 to 15 years ago. I'm assuming Dinosaur Demon might remember that, so yeah. That's another fantasy match that's never happened, but even if we don't get them in their prime, hopefully it might happen at some point, but both guys are winding down their careers, so I guess there's not much chance, but hopefully it might happen. The next match I would have be Ric Flair versus Lou Thesz. Now this is a generational match. Now, if anyone who remembers Lou Thesz, which would be like from maybe the 50s or the 60s, this guy was very straight-laced. He was one of the longer reigning world world heavyweight champions. And he was one of those really, like I said, straight-laced guys. And then you take a look at Ric Flair, who's very flamboyant. He's great on the mic. And both guys have been known, when they were in their prime, were known for going like 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour-long match. And that was their standard. That would be a standard length for both of them. So they have very similar styles, but their personalities contrast, and I felt like I think that this would actually have been a really good match if you had both men in their prime. The next up, I would have Daniel Bryan versus Randy Savage. This would again be along the lines of a Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage. I wanted to I tried as much as I could to avoid doing matches that have already been done, just because I wanted to see if there was anything different that I could do. But I think that Bryan versus Savage would be a phenomenal match again. Because anyone who watches today knows that Daniel Bryan is a really good wrestler. And Randy Savage, well, the guy's a legend. Whether Vince inducts him or not, Savage is a legend. And aside from to the next match, I would have Lita versus the Fabulous Moolah versus Trish Stratus in a triple threat match for the Women's Championship. Just because, I know that Lita and Stratus have gone before, so I wanted the Fabulous Moolah because she was from a previous generation, and if I had her in her prime, I think this would actually have been a good match. And this would, of course, be for the Women's Championship. And for the Intercontinental Championship, I would have Bret the Hitman Hart versus Edge. I think this would be a good Canadian battle. And yeah, you have Bret Hart, who has a great technical base. I think Edge would be able to play really well off of that. And Edge is one of those really good bad guys. If you wanted anyone to get any heel heat, this is the guy that you would want to be going up against. And I think the two would have a pretty good match. And after that, I would have Bruno Sammartino versus Shawn Michaels. Of course, Bruno Sammartino was winding down his career right around the beginning of the WrestleManias. Shawn Michaels went on to become Mr. WrestleMania. And again, that's another generational battle that I would like to see. And for the main event, I would have Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF Championship. This was a big fantasy match. It never happened. You had Rock versus Hogan, Rock versus Cena, and you never really had that Austin-Hogan match that could have been as big as it was. So that's how I would book a WrestleMania if I had everyone in their prime. Unfortunately, I just could not think of anything for Rock or Triple H when I sat down to book it last night, so I'm sure that if I had a chance, I would think of opponents for them. I just didn't quite have enough time. So, thank you for that one. And next question from Discolius. Who would you like to have seen live but never did? Who would you like to have seen live but never did? I guess Sting would come to mind because I never got to see any WCW events, so my inclination would be to say Sting. I did eventually get to see Goldberg and Flair, and those might be my other two answers. because they had signed with WWE, and I remember going to a Raw event back in 2003, and there was a Goldberg Ric Flair match. So there you go. So I would say Sting. At Discolius asks, what's the greatest botch of all time? Seriously? You have to ask that? You have to ask that? It's Psycho Sid jumping off the second rope and breaking his leg because John Laurinaitis told him to expand his offensive repertoire. Oh! Bonus match for WrestleMania. Psycho Sid in a handicap match against Kofi Kingston and Sin Cara. If Psycho Sid wins, Kofi and Cara have to take career advice from John Laurinaitis until they retire. And if Psycho Sid loses, he's only allowed to perform moves from the second rope until he's done for good. That would be comedy gold. Botch away, guys. Botch away. Oh. Okay, back on. Sin Cara. Yay! At Discolius, what is your favorite match/gimmick match? As far as like straight up matches concerned, I would have to go to the first one that comes to mind is Bret the Hitman Hart versus. Okay, I think I'm done with the mask. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm just finding it a little too muffled for me under this, so we'll just have Mr. Socko help me on this one. So, favorite match/gimmick match? Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam 91 is the first match that really comes to mind. Aside from that, Cactus Jack versus Triple H in the hardcore match at Raw, September 22nd, 1997 is another match that I would put up there among my favorites. As far as gimmick matches are concerned, I kind of gear more towards the hardcore matches. I generally prefer those. Although I do sometimes enjoy I'm not opposed to enjoying maybe a Hell in a Cell match or whatever else, but I generally prefer the hardcore matches for gimmicks. Let's see. What is your favorite theme song? Your favorite theme song? As far as it pertains to the characters, now there are a couple of ways that I can take this question. As far as fitting the character, I really liked Million Dollar Man's entrance theme and Hulk Hogan's entrance theme, because those two really fit the character well, so I would really have to point at those two as being my favorites from that aspect. As far as a straight up song is concerned, I would have to kind of lean more towards Cult of Personality, which is what CM Punk uses now. But there's a lot of them, so I would have to really think about that one, but those are my knee-jerk reactions, so there you go. Ooh. At Discolius. What is your wrestling DVD collection like? Let me show you. So let's see what we have. Rey Mysterio, The Life of a Masked Man. Ric Flair, Richard Sergeant. Legends of Wrestling collection. So let's see. And like I said, Rey Mysterio. The history of the Intercontinental Championship. Unforgiven. One of the Unforgiven pay-per-views. Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen. No Mercy. The 10th anniversary of Raw. Let's see. Road Warriors. The Mick Foley set, Mankind. CM Punk, Best in the World. Shawn vs. Brett rivalries. The Rivalries DVD. The Story of Edge. Heart and Soul, the Hart Family Anthology. Raw, the Best of 2010. Dusty Rhodes. Taboo Tuesday. Jeff Hardy. SummerSlam, I think it's 2004. When name deleted, Chris Benoit was the champ. I have an All-Star Wrestling DVD. WrestleMania 19. Satan's Prison, The Elimination Chamber. The Greatest Wrestling Stars of the 80s. Jake the Snake Roberts. Triumph and Tragedy, the World Class Championship Wrestling. Let's see, what else? Hell in a Cell. The Ric Flair's Definitive Collection. Triple H, Thy Kingdom Come. The Legacy of the AWA, the Spectacular Legacy, The History of the World Heavyweight Championship. The Rise and Fall of WCW. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. The Big Show, A Giant's World. The Life and Times of Mr. Perfect. Hulk Hogan's Unreleased Collectors Series. NWO The Revolution. Highest Flyers. McMahon, the Vince McMahon DVD. Vengeance. The top 50 WWE superstars of all time. Hall of Fame 2004. WWF Funniest Moments, back when it was still WWF. Let's see what else I have underneath here. Randy Savage, The Ultimate Collection, Hard Knocks, the Chris Benoit story, WWE Greatest Stars of the 90s, Twist of Fate, the Matt and Jeff Hardy story, Mick Foley's Greatest Hits and Misses, which is just a match compilation, unlike the Mick Foley DVD you saw earlier, which is also as a biography. The Legacy of Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 24, The Best of SmackDown 1999 through 2009, Born to Controversy, the Roddy Piper story, Daniel Superstar Collections, Daniel Bryan, The Twisted Disturbed Life of Kane, Shawn Michaels' My Journey, another Superstars Collection, Zack Ryder. Let's see. Raw, The Beginnings, Seasons 1 and 2. A Judgment Day pay-per-view. King of the Deathmatch, which is a Japanese one. So I think this was the first one where Cactus Jack beat Terry Funk in the finals. Let's see, ECW Unreleased, Volume 1, or is it 2? It's Volume 1. Allied Powers, the greatest tag teams, the world's greatest tag teams. the most powerful families in wrestling, the best of WWE's main event, another Mick Foley's greatest hits and misses. One of them is the hardcore edition, and one of them is not. The hardcore edition has a third disc of stuff that was after the original release, obviously. So, yeah. So that means I have 2 copies. One was 2 discs, one was 3. And then finally in this bin we have the greatest superstars of WrestleMania. So there you go. That is the bulk of my wrestling DVD collection. I know that I have the Bret Hart DVD set somewhere, but I just can't remember where I have it. Because I had to move a while ago, so it's probably stuck in my storage somewhere. Let's see. Ooh, wait, I think I see a DVD hidden in there. I think it's SummerSlam 2005. Yep, it's a SummerSlam DVD. And there you go. That is the bulk of my wrestling collection. So, I'm sure that when I get my stuff out of storage, I'm probably going to go through my whole collection and show you guys what else I have. Because I know I have more wrestling DVDs than that, but that's probably the bulk of it. I'd say maybe about 75 to 80% of my collection is that. So, there you go. And let's see. Next question from @Discolius. If you were a wrestler, what would your gimmick be? Well, I wanted to be a wrestler when I was a kid, and my gimmick was actually going to be punishment, believe it or not. Where I was going to be basically like a monster baby face, where basically think of how they were building up Ryback about a year or 2 ago. So that's about what I had in mind for my gimmick. And then, of course, as I grew up, I got into doing other things, so I would either go, so if I were a teenager wanting to be a wrestler, I would have either gone with the disco thing, which my friends know me as, or if I'd stuck with punishment, it would have been a completely different thing from what I had originally envisioned, and I would be telling horrible jokes. Like at a restaurant, I would pick up the cutlery and tell them to fork it over. So yeah, as you could tell, I would have been stuck at best in the mid-card. Maybe Intercontinental Champion at best. So, there you go. Maybe it's a good thing I'm not a pro wrestler. Let's see. Who was your favorite wrestler as a kid and now? When I was a kid, my favorite was Bret the Hitman Hart. And now I kind of go for, I know that this is pretty internet smarkish, but CM Punk. I'm sorry. This isn't me trying to be a sheep, but I do legitimately enjoy watching a CM Punk or a Daniel Bryan. Okay, next question. What are your favorite memories at WWE or indie shows? Okay, I guess I'll start with indie shows because the indie shows are a little more recent. Winning the 50-50 back in November for $80. Let's see, meeting Disco Fury. Because, disco, right? So, let's see. Favorite indie moments. Midget Time, Short Sleeve Samson. I don't know why, but it's always fun meeting a midget. It's a midget! You don't need an excuse! A midget is a midget! As far as WWE's are, like, memories at WWE shows, I'm assuming that you mean, like, shows that I've actually attended in person. Let's see. When I was at the Raw when Rosie came out as Superhero in Training. And let's see what else. Oh, the very first one I attended, Jeff Jarrett versus Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon grabs the microphone when Jeff Jarrett tries to run out. Razor was defending the Intercontinental Championship at this show. And he says, "Yo, Chico, you don't win the belt out there." For those who don't know, you cannot win a championship on count-out or disqualification, even no matter who's outside or gets disqualified. So, let's see. Another event. I remember going to a pay-per-view one time. This was, I think, like around 98, 99. It was a Buried Alive match in Vancouver. And I actually started an asshole chant at Vince McMahon from the nosebleed section. And I was with my dad at that show, and I did not get in trouble for it. I think because when you have like 15, 16,000 people making the same chant, you kind of understand that, okay, this is, you assume that this is what's normal for a wrestling event, so that's how you come to see it. So yeah, those are some of my initial memories of going to live events. Okay, next question. At Discolius, when was your first live event? 1995. That was the one where Razor Ramon said, "Jeff Jarrett, yo Chico, you don't win the belt out there." That's something that to this day, my mom, who went with me and my brother to that one, still jokes about. I think I was maybe around 11 or 12 at the time. So yeah, there you go. That was my first live WWE event. Or first live event, period, that I went to. And finally, what's your earliest wrestling memory? Jake the Snake Roberts slamming the casket on the Undertaker's hand and Undertaker dragging the casket around with him. So, I hope that answers all your questions. And Mr. Sacco, what's going to be the next hashtag? Hashtag Nebocsid. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Next week's Q&A is all about me. So if you have any questions that you've always wanted to know about Nebocsid, now's the time to ask it. Don't forget to like him on Facebook, follow him on Twitter, like this video, and subscribe to Nebocsid's YouTube channel. Bye, everybody!